In the quiet suburban enclave of Sunnyvale Meadows, where manicured lawns and cookie-cutter houses stretched as far as the eye could see, Ethan Caldwell was known for two things: his tech-savvy nature and his unwavering commitment to sustainability. His modest two-story home stood out, not because of its architecture, but because of the sleek array of solar panels glinting on his roof. These weren't just any solar panels. They were state-of-the-art, high-efficiency models that Ethan had installed after years of research and saving. What nobody in the neighborhood knew, not even Ethan at first, was that these panels were quietly powering more than just his home. They were the unsung heroes behind the neighborhood streetlights, a little-known arrangement made by the developer years ago to cut costs. Enter Karen Pritchard, the self-appointed guardian of Sunnyvale Meadows Homeowners Association. Karen was a force of nature, armed with a clipboard, a penchant for writing strongly worded letters, and an unshakable belief that she alone upheld the neighborhood's aesthetic standards. Her latest crusade? Ethan's solar panels. To Karen, they were an eyesore, a blight on the uniformity of the community's rooftops. "They're too shiny," she complained at the last HOA meeting, her voice carrying the weight of someone who just discovered a national scandal. "They don't match the approved color palette." Ethan, a software engineer with a knack for problem solving, tried to reason with her. He'd shown up to the meeting with data, graphs of energy savings, environmental benefits, and even a breakdown of how his panels reduced the neighborhood's carbon footprint. But Karen wasn't interested in facts. She wanted conformity. "Rules are rules, Ethan," she'd said, tapping her pen against her clipboard. "If we let you keep those panels, next thing you know, someone will want to paint their house neon green." The battle lines were drawn, but Ethan wasn't one to back down. He'd checked the HOA bylaws. There was no explicit rule against solar panels, only vague language about maintaining aesthetic harmony. He figured he was in the clear. That is, until the morning he woke up to a nightmare. It was a crisp Saturday in early spring, the kind of day where the air smelled of fresh-cut grass and possibility. Ethan stepped outside to grab his morning coffee from the porch when he froze. His solar panels, once a pristine grid of black and silver, were now slathered in a garish shade of beige paint, the exact color of the neighborhood's approved exterior palette. The paint dripped down the panels like a toddler's art project, pooling on his roof and streaking onto the gutters. Ethan's jaw dropped. What the actual, his neighbor, old Mr. Jenkins, was out watering his roses and caught Ethan's expression. "Saw her last night," Jenkins muttered, shaking his head. "Karen, sneaking around with a ladder and a can of paint. Thought she was just touching up her own house. But, well, you see the result." Ethan's blood boiled. Karen had crossed a line. He stormed back inside, grabbed his phone, and started filming the damage, narrating as he went. "This is my roof, folks. These are my solar panels, or what's left of them. Someone, spoiler alert, it's the HOA president, decided to paint them beige in the middle of the night. Why? Because they don't fit the aesthetic. This is unbelievable." He uploaded the video to YouTube, titling it, "HOA Karen painted over my solar panels, unaware they power the entire neighborhood's streetlights." He didn't expect much traction, but he needed a vent, and maybe, just maybe, someone in the community would see it and back him up. By noon, Ethan's phone was buzzing nonstop. His video was gaining views, hundreds, then thousands. Comments poured in, ranging from sympathetic, "That's vandalism," "Sue her," to incredulous, "Who paints solar panels?" But what Ethan didn't know was that his video was about to uncover a secret that would turn Sunnyvale Meadows upside down. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the neighborhood streetlights didn't flicker on. The cul-de-sacs and sidewalks were plunged into an eerie darkness. Ethan noticed at first when he stepped outside to inspect the damage again. His neighbor, Sarah, a single mom who lived across the street, called out to him, "Ethan, any idea why the lights are out? My kids are freaking out." Ethan frowned, a sinking feeling in his gut. He grabbed his laptop and dug into the technical specs of his solar system, something he hadn't fully explored since the installation. Buried in the fine print of the developer's contract was a bombshell. His panels weren't just feeding his house. They were connected to a microgrid that powered the neighborhood streetlights, a cost-saving measure the developer had implemented without telling anyone. The beige paint, now caked over the panels, was blocking their ability to charge, effectively cutting off the grid. "Oh, Karen," Ethan muttered, shaking his head. "You've really done it now." He updated his YouTube video with a follow-up explaining the discovery. "Turns out, my solar panels aren't just for me. They power every streetlight in Sunnyvale Meadows. And thanks to Karen's paint job, we're all in the dark. Literally." The video exploded, hitting tens of thousands of views by morning. Local news outlets picked it up, and soon, Ethan's inbox was flooded with messages from reporters, environmental activists, and even a few lawyers offering to take his case pro bono. But Karen wasn't one to go down without a fight. She called an emergency HOA meeting the next day, claiming Ethan's panels were a safety hazard and that he violated bylaws by not getting prior approval. She stood at the front of the community center, her clipboard now a shield, as she addressed the crowd. "This is about maintaining our property values. We can't have rogue homeowners doing whatever they please." Ethan, armed with his laptop and a projector, took the floor. He showed the crowd his YouTube video, the contract proving the panels' role in the streetlights, and photos of the paint-slathered panels. Gasps rippled through the room. Mr. Jenkins stood up, his voice shaky but firm. "Karen, you've gone too far. Those lights keep my grandkids safe when they play outside. You're telling me you painted over them because they didn't match your color scheme." The room erupted in murmurs. Sarah, the single mom, chimed in, "My daughter's afraid to sleep without the streetlights on. Fix this, Karen." Others nodded, their frustration palpable. Karen's face reddened, but she doubled down. "This is about order, rules. You can't just—" "Enough!" shouted Mrs. Alvarez, the neighborhood's unofficial matriarch. "You've caused enough trouble. Ethan, what do we need to do to fix this?" Ethan explained that the panels needed professional cleaning and possibly replacement if the paint had caused permanent damage. The cost? Thousands of dollars. He looked at Karen pointedly. "I'm not paying for this. The person who caused the damage should." The meeting ended with a vote to hold Karen personally accountable for the repairs, but the drama was far from over. Karen stormed out, vowing to fight the decision, while Ethan's YouTube channel continued to gain traction. Comments flooded in from across the country. Stories of other HOA horror shows, tips for dealing with overzealous board members, and even a few memes featuring Karen's now infamous paint can. As Ethan stood on his roof the next morning, assessing the damage with a contractor, he noticed a news van pulling into the neighborhood. A reporter hopped out, microphone in hand, ready to cover the story that was quickly becoming a viral sensation. But what Ethan didn't know was that Karen was already plotting her next move, a legal challenge claiming she was acting in the HOA's best interests. And somewhere in the background, a mysterious figure was watching, someone who knew more about the developer's microgrid than they were letting on. The morning sun cast long shadows across Sunnyvale Meadows as Ethan stood on his roof, the contractor beside him shaking his head at the beige-painted solar panels. The news van parked on the street below was just the beginning. By midday, 2 more reporters had arrived, their cameras trained on Ethan's house like it was the scene of a blockbuster scandal. Ethan's YouTube video, "HOA Karen painted over my solar panels," unaware they power the entire neighborhood streetlights, had skyrocketed past 100,000 views, and the comment section was a wildfire support, outrage, and the occasional conspiracy theory. "This is why HOAs are the worst," one commenter wrote. Another speculated, "Bet the developer is hiding something about that microgrid." Ethan wasn't sure what to make of the attention, but he knew one thing. Karen Pritchard wasn't going to let this go quietly. As the contractor scribbled an estimate for her cleaning the panels, $3, $500 minimum, more if replacements were needed, Ethan's phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from the HOA, signed by Karen herself, demanding his presence at a special disciplinary hearing that evening. The subject line read, "Violation of community standards." Ethan laughed out loud. "She's the one who vandalized my property, and I'm the one in trouble?" Down the street, Sarah, the single mom who'd spoken up at the last meeting, waved him over. "Ethan, you've got to see this," she said, holding up her phone. A local news blog had posted an article titled, "Sunnyvale Meadows in the Dark. HOA President's paint job plunges neighborhood into chaos." The article quoted Ethan's YouTube video and included a blurry photo of Karen's ladder leaning against his house, snapped by Mr. Jenkins' security camera. "You're famous," Sarah said with a grin. "But watch out. Karen's telling everyone you're trying to undermine the HOA's authority." Ethan shook his head, his mind racing. He wasn't just fighting for his panels anymore. This was about the neighborhood's right to know the truth. He uploaded a quick YouTube update, keeping it calm and YouTube policy friendly. "Hey, everyone, thanks for support," he said into his phone's camera, standing in front of the Paint Street panels. "Here's the deal. These panels power our streetlights, and because of the paint, they're not working. I'm heading to an HOA meeting tonight to set things straight. Stay tuned." He posted the video, and within minutes, the views started climbing again. The community center was packed that evening, the air thick with tension. Karen stood at the front, her clipboard now replaced by a stack of papers she waved dramatically. "Ethan Caldwell has violated our bylaws by installing unapproved equipment and causing a public disturbance," she declared, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "His so-called solar panels are a safety hazard, and this YouTube nonsense is slandering our community." Ethan stood, his laptop ready. He'd spent the afternoon digging deeper into the microgrid's origins, and what he'd found was intriguing. The developer, Sunnyvale Properties, had buried a clause in the neighborhood's original contracts, linking a single homeowner solar array, Ethan's, to the streetlight grid. It was a clever workaround to avoid installing a full municipal system, but it meant Ethan's panels were critical infrastructure. He projected the contract onto the wall, highlighting the clause. "Karen, you painted over the panels that keep our streets safe," he said evenly. "That's not a violation on my part. It's vandalism." The crowd murmured, and Mrs. Alvarez, the neighborhood matriarch, stood up. "Karen, explain yourself. Why'd you do it?" Karen sputtered, her face reddening. "I was protecting our property values. Those panels are an eyesore." But the room wasn't buying it. A young couple in the back shouted, "We need those lights. Our kids walk home at night." As the meeting descended into chaos, Ethan noticed a man in the back row, someone he didn't recognize. He was older, maybe in his 60s, with a sharp suit and a notepad, scribbling furiously. Ethan's gut told him this guy wasn't just a curious neighbor. When the meeting adjourned with no resolution, Karen stormed out, promising legal action. Ethan approached the stranger. "Hey, I'm Ethan. You new around here?" The man smiled faintly. "Not exactly. Name's Richard Holt. I used to work for Sunnyvale Properties." He glanced around, lowering his voice. "Those panels? There's more to them than you think. Meet me tomorrow at the coffee shop on Elm Street. Bring your laptop." Ethan's pulse quickened. He nodded, unsure whether to be excited or wary. That night, he uploaded another YouTube update, keeping it vague but intriguing. "Big development tonight. Folks, found out something new about the microgrid, and I'm meeting someone tomorrow who might have answers. This isn't just about paint anymore. It's about what's really going on in Sunnyvale Meadows." The video hit 10,000 views in an hour, with comments speculating wildly. Is this a cover-up? What's the developer hiding? The next morning, Ethan sat at the coffee shop, his laptop open and a recorder app ready on his phone. Richard Holt slid into the booth across from him, his expression serious. "You've stirred up a hornet's nest, kid," he said, sipping his coffee. "Those panels aren't just powering streetlights. They're part of an experimental system the developer installed to skirt regulations. There's data being collected, energy output, usage patterns, and it's going somewhere it shouldn't." Ethan leaned forward, his mind racing. "What do you mean? Who's getting the data?" Holt glanced out the window, as if checking for eavesdroppers. "I can't say more here, but check your panel's firmware. There's a hidden log file. You're a tech guy, you'll figure it out." He slid a business card across the table, blank except for a handwritten email address. "Send me what you find. And watch your back. Karen's not the only one who wants this buried." As Holt left, Ethan's phone pinged with a new YouTube comment. "Dude, check your DMs. I'm an engineer, and I can help you hack that firmware." Ethan's heart pounded. This was bigger than he'd imagined, and he was in deep. But he wasn't backing down. not with the neighborhood's lights, and maybe more on the line. Ethan sat in the Elm Street coffee shop, staring at the cryptic business card Richard Holt had left behind. The handwritten email address seemed to burn a hole in his pocket, and the mysterious engineer's YouTube DM was still open on his phone. "I've worked with microgrid firmware before. Send me the model number of your panels, and I'll guide you through accessing that log file. Be discreet." Ethan's mind was a whirlwind. What had started as a petty HOA dispute over beige paint was spiraling into something far bigger, a potential cover-up involving his solar panels and the neighborhoods. Like a lifeline added, "Certain residents have caused disruptions, and we're taking action to protect our community." Ethan stepped forward, his phone recording audio discreetly. "Karen, are you admitting to painting my panels? Because that's what caused the streetlight outage." The crowd murmured, and Grayson's smile faltered. Karen snapped, "This isn't about me. It's about your unauthorized equipment." But Ethan wasn't backing down. He turned to the crowd, keeping his tone calm. "My panels power the streetlights. I have proof, and I'm starting to think there's more to this microgrid than we've been told." Grayson cut in smoothly. "Let's keep this civil. We'll review all documentation and resolve this privately." But the crowd wasn't having it. Mr. Jenkins, the rose-watering neighbor, shouted, "Tell us why the lights are out." Others chimed in, demanding answers. Ethan caught Grayson exchanging a glance with Karen, a silent signal that set his nerves on edge. That night, Ethan uploaded another YouTube update, careful to stick to facts and avoid speculation that could flag the video. "Got a lead on the microgrid's data collection," he said, holding up a blurred screenshot of the log file. "The developer might be involved, and I'm working to uncover the truth. Also, the HOA is planning inspections, so things are heating up. Let me know in the comments if you've dealt with something like this." The video hit 50,000 views in hours, with comments flooding in, some from other neighborhoods reporting similar microgrid setups. As Ethan refreshed his inbox, a new email from Holt arrived. "You're on the right track. That shell company? It's a front. Check the developer's old permits at City Hall. Look for anything tied to Project Luminary. And don't trust Grayson. He's not just a consultant." Ethan's heart raced. Project Luminary? What was that? He grabbed his keys, ready to head to City Hall the next morning. But noise outside stopped him cold. A faint clatter, like a ladder against his house. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto his porch, his pulse pounding. The streetlights were still dark, and the shadows seemed to hide more than just a night. Ethan's flashlight beam cut through the darkness outside his house, the clatter still echoing in his ears. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, the streetlights still dead thanks to Karen's paint job on his solar panels. His heart thumped as he scanned the shadows, half expecting to catch Karen with another can of beige paint. Instead, he spotted a figure retreating down the street, a man in a dark jacket, too quick to identify. Ethan's gut screamed that this was tied to Richard Holt's cryptic warning about Project Luminary and mysterious Mr. Grayson. He snapped a quick photo with his phone, the figure just a blurry silhouette, and headed back inside, locking the door behind him. The next morning, Ethan was at City Hall before it opened, a USB drive with the microgrid log file in his pocket, and Holt's email burned into his memory. The clerk, a bored woman named Linda, raised an eyebrow when he requested records for Sunnyvale Properties permits. "That's a lot of paperwork," she said, but after some prodding, she handed over a dusty box labeled Sunnyvale Meadows, 2015. Ethan spent hours sifting through faded documents, his eyes catching on a single phrase, Project Luminary. It was a permit addendum buried in jargon, describing an experimental energy monitoring system tied to a residential solar array, his solar array. The permit mentioned data collection for third-party analysis, but the third party wasn't named. Ethan snapped photos of the document, his hands shaking. This was big. Back home, he emailed the findings to Holt and Grid Sleuth, the engineer who'd helped him access the firmware. Grid Sleuth replied within minutes. "That's a data harvesting operation. The microgrid's sending usage patterns to someone, probably for profit. Check if the server IP links to a data broker." Ethan ran another trace, and sure enough, the IP tied back to a company called Luminary Labs, a shadowy outfit with no website. just a P.O. box in Delaware. His YouTube audience needed to hear this, but he had to keep it clean to avoid content flags. He recorded a new video in his garage, the now clean solar panels visible through the window. "Hey everyone," he said, keeping his tone measured. "I found proof the developer set up my panels to collect data, way more than just energy output. It's tied to something called Project Luminary, and I'm digging deeper. The HOA is still coming for me, but I'm not backing down. Drop your thoughts in the comments." The video hit 500,000 views by evening, with comments exploding. "This is some corporate conspiracy stuff," and "sue the developer." A few even mentioned Luminary Labs, claiming it popped up in other neighborhoods with similar setups. Meanwhile, Karen was escalating her campaign. She'd posted flyers around Sunnyvale Meadows, calling Ethan a disruptive influence and announcing a vote to fine him for non-compliant modifications. But the neighborhood was turning. Sarah, Mr. Jenkins, and Mrs. Alvarez organized a counter-campaign, passing out their own flyers with screenshots from Ethan's videos and a headline, "Who's really powering our streets?" At the next HOA meeting, the community center was standing room only. Karen, flanked by Mr. Grayson, tried to control the narrative, but the crowd wasn't having it. "You broke the streetlights," a teenager shouted, holding up his phone with Ethan's video playing. Ethan took the floor, projecting the Project Luminary permit for all to see. "These panels aren't just mine, they're infrastructure," he said. "And someone's been collecting data from them without our knowledge. Karen painted them to shut me up, but this is bigger than her." Grayson's face went pale, and he slipped out the back door before Ethan could finish. Karen, cornered, stammered about protecting property values, but the crowd booed her down. Mrs. Alvarez stood, her voice commanding. "We're voting Karen out as HOA president tonight, and we're hiring a lawyer to investigate this Luminary Labs mess." The vote was unanimous. Karen was ousted, her clipboard era over. Ethan's panels were fully cleaned by the next day, the streetlights flickering back on to cheers from the neighborhood kids. Ethan posted a final YouTube update, his most triumphant yet. "We got the lights back and Karen's out," he said, grinning. "But Project Luminary? That's not over. I'm working with experts to trace where our data's going. This community's fighting back." The video broke 1 million views, with comments urging him to keep going. "You're a hero, Ethan. Expose Luminary Labs." As Ethan celebrated with Sarah and Mr. Jenkins over coffee, his phone pinged with a new email from Holt. "Good work, kid. Luminary Labs is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a bigger player behind them, a tech giant. Meet me tomorrow and bring everything you've got." Ethan's smile faded. He glanced out his window, where a black SUV idled across the street, its driver obscured. The fight was far from over, and Sunnyvale Meadows was about to become ground zero for a battle over privacy, power, and the truth.